has the end truly come for Cap and his team? Has the Red Skull played his ultimate trump card by unleashing the H-bomb upon the world? Well, let's hop into the pages of Avengers Twilight issue number 6, the grand finale of this Chip Zdarsky series, and find out together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, the Red Skull had managed to unleash his deadliest weapon yet, a mind-controlled Hulk that is now rampaging across Washington. The internal monologue right away does a great job painting one hell of a picture, saying that the Hulk is really the ultimate personification of America's long-standing and unfortunate history of creating its own monsters. After all, the Hulk was born from atomic testing. And now the very same American military that spent a lifetime trying to hunt down the Jade Giant jumped at the opportunity to try and use his incredible power for themselves. Steve is obviously horrified to see what's become of his friend and teammate, and he wonders if there's actually any banner left inside the monster to appeal to, but that'll have to be a conversation for later. And hey, while we're on the subject of appealing, elsewhere on the battlefield, James Stark and his father Tony finally have a chance to talk. Though sadly, James is still angry. He doesn't want to listen. He says that he and the Red Skull have finally done something that matters. They're actually protecting the world, actually making people safe, creating a place where no little boy would ever lose his parents at such a young age like James did. It's right here, though, the comic ends up going for one hell of a twist. In the last issue, we learned that Iron Man never actually ever thought to abandon his son, and now we see that his missing mother Janet felt much the same, as that ring James has been wearing since all of this began, well, that always had the Wasp living inside it. The hope was that even if Tony Stark ended up dead or in prison, Janet would eventually be there to take care of her son, if only James was smart enough to figure out how to get into the ring. Of course, he never got the chance because Kyle Jarvis came into his life and started dripping poison into his ear, but now that James realizes the truth that his parents always did love him and never did abandon him, he's finally ready to change sides and accept his legacy as an Avenger. It also probably helps too that Red Skull also starts shooting at Janet, which only serves to piss James off and again show him that he was very much on the wrong side this whole time. As far as the Hulk goes, dealing with this problem actually falls to Thor. The two's battle is so climactic and so massive they end up knocking each other all over the United States. In the end, the real Banner is able to cut through the conditioning just long enough to beg his old Asgardian friend to end his suffering, meaning that Thor has no choice but to drown the Jade Giant in the ocean, finally putting an end to H-Day once and for all. The tide is thankfully turning for the good guys all over the world right now. Luke Cage manages to stop one of his defenders from beating one of the brainwashed soldiers with a baseball bat, saying that's not how we do things, especially because in a couple minutes the defenders are going to make use of this evil regime's spy tech to make it so that the entire world can finally see who the Red Skull really is and witness his defeat firsthand. Of course, Schmidt being Schmidt, he refuses to go down without a fight. And wouldn't you know it, in a series that's already been filled with some truly amazing, truly horrifying villainous monologues, the Red Skull has saved maybe the best one for last. And because people seem to like it when I do this bit, allow me to offer up the latest addition to my voice acting reel.
You simplistic fools, your country stands for nothing. This inane symbol so easily twisted, so thoroughly co-opted, that by the time I'm done, people will wave it as a siren call to fascism. They will see my lies as truth. I control the media. I control your insipid laws. I let your puppet president's blood wash over me because you don't need a president anymore when you have a Führer.
Now, that was one hell of a speech, which, unlike Captain America's speech, which failed to move the American people when he tried it before, this one is actually being broadcast all over the world. And while indeed the average American people were kowtowed by a fake sense of security and creature comforts, even they're not so stupid as to accept being ruled over by a skull-faced Nazi. Well, I mean, enough people probably like 60-40. With the Skull's illusion shattered and James turning against him, the heroes are able to rally and take the fight directly to their hated foe, managing to lay down Earth's mightiest smackdown on the jabroni. Captain America himself is also sure to deliver the final blow himself with his shield, but this is the Red Skull we're talking about, and in classic supervillain fashion, he was sure to put a failsafe inside his own suit, meaning that if he was ever defeated, the whole damn thing would go nuclear, taking absolutely everyone around them. Worse still, Cap is too weak now to do anything about it because he's exerted himself to the point that he suffers from a heart attack. Luckily, Janet is there there to render some help and also say that if they make it through this, Steve really needs to let her redesign his costume. The real MVP of the day, though, once again ends up being James, who thinks that he better start work right away in trying to repair his image and start down the long road to redemption by sacrificing himself by flying the skull into space. Tony ends up giving chase, telling his son that he still has a lot to learn. After all, these old repulsors were able to keep up with brand new technology, but that James will have plenty of time to figure it out, because there always needs to be an Iron Man. Tony was willing to sacrifice life and limb to save his son once before, and now he's willing to do it all over again, choosing to take the brunt of the explosion himself. James may have lost his father, but at least he was able to regain his mother. The day is saved, and Janet says that it was on this day James learned the truth about what it means to be a hero, to be an Avenger. That you can do everything right, that you can save the day, yet still end up feeling like you lost. It's after that we end up jumping forward to a much more hopeful future. Steve managed to survive his brush with death and even reconcile with his wife. Unfortunately, doing so burned out the last of the super soldier serum inside him, meaning that it looks like he's going to have to leave the superhero business to the next generation. Thor is hopeful, though, saying that Captain America's greatest ability was his power to inspire, and that there are plenty of young heroes out there ready to heed the call, like James, who is actively rebuilding Avengers Mansion brick by brick all on his own. But believe it or not, we're not done yet either, as we follow King Thor back to Asgard, wherein he has a meeting with Loki. It seems that it was actually the god of mischief who had carried the Defenders' distress call to Thor's ears. Why? Well, that should be obvious, shouldn't it? Loki was there when the Avengers assembled for the first time, so it only makes sense that he would be here again for their last ride. Loki also says over the years he's come to love and respect his brother, so much to the point he was able to pull some strings in the halls of Valhalla, so that two weary warriors, Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, may actually find eternal rest, which even Iron Man himself has to admit is a pretty goddamn good deal for two scientists who were often considered heathens in their day. As the comic comes to an end, Bullseye's daughter and Miss Marvel actually join James in rebuilding the manor. He says he doesn't need the help, but Kamala says the whole thing will be a lot better and a lot stronger if they work together. And so that was Avengers Twilight issue number 6, everybody, and I gotta say this was an excellent way to end what ended up being an excellent little mini-series and yet another notch in Chip Zdarsky's creative belt, as if he needed it. The action was great, the character arcs were solid, especially James, who ends up walking away being probably one of my favorite new possible future characters. Obviously, the Avengers as a team and as a book are, gonna be one of those things that's gonna be around forever. It's gonna outlive all of us, so we'll probably never see the real end. But what Zdarsky delivers here is something that I feel confident enough in saying that if this was the last word written on Avengers, I think it would be a really good last word. It's also a very topical book that asks the reader some very tough questions about the modern age we live in. At what cost do our freedom and security come from? Are we really as free as we believe, or are we just too comfortable? It's also probably the scariest and most evil the Red Skull has been in a real long time either. I think this book will really end up going down as one of those great collected trades that you could reasonably give to anyone, no matter what level of comic book fan they are, and I think they could come away with something really meaningful from the story. Overall, I would give this one a much deserved 10 out of 10. Great stuff.